Herzog. Khamzat Chimaev will take your nominations, and this one in particular, the consensus greatest two middleweights in the world at
the most anticipated fight in the UFC. The fighters hate each other and conflict all the time. Their fight was supposed to take place in Abu Dhabi, but due to the injury of Paulo Costa, the fight never happened. Recently, Chimaev defeated Usman, and Costa again challenged Khamzat to a fight to end their conflict in the octagon. Hello everyone, Fighters Are With You MMA Predictions channel. In this video, I will give a prediction for the fight Khamzat Chimaev versus Paulo Costa. But before starting this video, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and like it so that as many people as possible can see this video. This fight has been on everyone's lips for a long time. Fans of both fighters want to see this fight, and this is understandable since both are prospects who are in the top of the middleweight division, and both are very popular personalities, which can have a positive effect on the promotion of this fight. Apart from everything else, their hype is real. It's not some Sean only who beat everyone in a row, and then he was beaten by the top Marlon Vera. Both fighters were tested by the strong tops of their weight class. Chimaev managed to meet with a good representative of wrestling, and also a no less good striker, Gilbert Burns, who at the time of their fight occupied the third line. And Costa is a former contender he fought against, not without the famous Luke Rockhold and Yoel Romero. Both he was able to destroy. In general, the fighters are in these positions for a reason. They deserve all this with sweat and blood, and there is nothing to criticize them for. As for their fight itself, the management did not seriously consider this confrontation. Basically, only the fans gave heat and asked to arrange this fight, but the UFC does not benefit from this confrontation in any way. And now I will explain why. The loser in this pair will lose a lot of hype. The main promotion will also hit the pocket after all, so why would they do this? If you can keep the fighters until the title fight, where there will be PPV and other paid chips that fans will undoubtedly buy for the sake of this fight. As a result, the UFC is unlikely to go for this, and in the near future, their fight is definitely not worth waiting for. But we can analyze it and understand who will be stronger and will be able to declare himself as a top welterweight fighter. In this video, we will analyze everything from beginning to understand which of the athletes is on the Olympus and who is just climbing it. Paulo Costa has strength in his fists, and whether Chimaev will be able to withstand all his blows, now we will find out. Percussion style. We start with the striking style. The first in line is Khamzat. What can be said about the strike of the Greyhound? As I have stated more than once, so Chimaev does not have such a base in his hands. Well, he does not know how to box competently. What can you do? But God rewarded him with excellent punch power. If you do not believe me, then you can watch his fight against Ikram Aliskerov and Gerald Meerschaert. There all the power of Chimaev is clearly shown. But as I said, Chimaev is not particularly strong in boxing technique. We could see this in the fight against Gilbert, who easily evaded Khamzat's attacks and counterattacked twice as strong. So in the stance against Costa, he needs to be extremely careful, because he must know that in this fight the stance will not be on his side. If he refuses to accept this factor, then the night could become sad for Chimaev. Now we move on to Paulo Costa's striking base and his skills. I can't say anything grandiose. Yes, he has a lot of experience playing with elite level drummers, but he showed himself there so badly, so I don't even know if you can take that into account. His style is built on knocking out his opponent with the very first punches, and therefore, as soon as Paulo approached the top 5, he began to have problems. For the middleweight elite, it is not a problem to beat the Brazilian on his hands, who, when he goes into an exchange, does not look at the defense at all. He knocked everyone out when he first came to the UFC, knockout after knockout. Everyone had high hopes for him, but as soon as he met the representatives of the top 5 for the first time. For example, the same fight against Yoel Romero, everything fell into place. And what can be said in the end? It will not be easy to choose a favorite here, but after much thought, I will still give this aspect to Costa with a slight advantage, who is more technical and acts for sure than Chimaev. Playing from the bottom. Let's move on to the skills on the ground, where Costa is also not to say that he is in top shape and defends himself from every transfer. If he's up against freestyle fighters like Marvin Vettori, or even old man Luke Rockhold, a couple of times I can confidently say he'll be transferred. He has been in the UFC for a long time, but he still has problems with this aspect, and now time goes by, and the middle division is slowly replenished with wrestlers like the same Chimaev. Paulo is unlikely to defend himself from all transfers. I believe this with great difficulty, but if a fighter comes up against him who is also a puncher and likes to box on his hands, then he can move you, thereby avoiding competition on his hands. So yes, there are a lot of questions for Paulo Costa about how he fights, and here Khamzat can start building his game, since it is there that he likes to end fights. Kevin Holland and many other UFC fighters suffered from the fight of the Chechen Greyhound. Khamzat has always had and remains this trump card in his pocket, and in every fight he uses it, but only if you do not count the fight with Burns. From the very beginning of the round, Khamzat presses you to the cage and then throws you down with an amplitude throw, or drags you across the entire octagon to his corner. This has already happened in the practice of the Greyhound, but in this fight everything will not be as easy as it seems, since his opponent is also not bad in wrestling, and therefore Chimaev should also not expect that he will easily be able to fight the Kazakh, who also has skills on the ground, which we will talk about a little later. So Chimaev should prepare with full dedication and understand in which situations it is better to transfer. Costa will definitely be stronger than many opponents with whom Khamzat fought. At least, I think he will surpass the same Gilbert in terms of skills. And what can I say in the end? Because of the Brazilian's not very good defense, I will still give preference to Khamzat. Cardio and spirit. Let's move on to the breather, and the first in line is Khamzat, and here is the trouble. Because in the duel against Gilbert and Usman, these are two fights of Khamzat in which he reached the decision of the judges, so he did not show himself in the best light. We all saw that he begins to slow down at the end, and his passes, the strength in his hands disappears sharply. As for Costa, I do not argue that he has more experience and knowledge of going the entire distance, but in 3-round fights he mainly likes to cut down, where he can leave all his strength. So here also not everything is as simple as it seems, but still, due to not much experience, I will give this aspect to the Brazilian. As for the spirit, then without hesitation the clear favorite Khamzat Chimaev. Forecast. I think that Khamzat Chimaev will be better in this fight. He will be able to transfer Costa, and within 2 rounds he will be able to finish him.